Welcome back. Please like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Welcome back to Simple News Today. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we are talking about a massive new plan for energy and a very important meeting at the White House.
That's right. President Trump recently hosted the leaders of America's biggest oil companies. He wants them to rush back into Venezuela.
Wow, Venezuela? Why is this happening now?
Well, after a recent military operation and the capture of Nicolas Maduro, the region is changing. President Trump wants to completely rebuild Venezuela's oil industry.
I heard he asked the oil executives for $100 billion in investment. That is a huge amount of money, right?
Exactly. He wants that money to repair and modernize the infrastructure. For our learners, infrastructure here means the pipes, machines, and buildings used to get oil out of the ground.
I see. President Trump said that American companies originally built that industry, and now he wants them to reclaim those assets. But is it safe for workers to go there?
That is a great question. President Trump promised that the U.S. government will provide direct security and oversight. This means the workers and the money will be protected by a new U.S. framework.
So the U.S. will basically be in a management role over Venezuela's oil.
Precisely. It is part of the president's energy dominant strategy. He wants to lower gas prices for Americans and help the Venezuelan economy grow again.
That makes sense. If the U.S. controls more oil, we don't have to rely on other unfriendly countries.
Exactly. Some people have concerns about the U.S. running another country's economy, but President Trump says this is necessary for American interests.
It is definitely a story to watch. Thanks for explaining, Alex.
You're welcome. See you next time. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our daily news update. Today, we are talking about your wallet.
That's right, Alex. We have some very big news from the White House. President Trump just announced a new plan for credit cards.
Exactly. President Trump wants to cap credit card interest rates at 10% for 1 year.
Wow, 10%? That sounds like a big change. Right now, many people pay 20% or even 30% in interest. That is so expensive.
You're right, Jamie. It is very hard for families to pay back their debt when the rates are that high. President Trump said this move will stop banks from ripping off the public.
So when does this start?
The president wants this to begin on January 20th. This is part of his promise to lower the cost of living for middle-class families.
I see. But can he really do that, legally?
Well, he plans to work with Congress to pass a new law. But if they cannot agree quickly, he might use an executive action to get it done.
Interesting. I heard that some market experts are worried, though.
Yes, exactly. Some experts say it might become harder for people to get new credit cards. If the interest is low, banks might be more careful about who they lend money to.
That makes sense. But for people who already have a lot of debt, this 10% cap could be a huge relief.
Definitely. His supporters say it is a bold strike against the big banks on Wall Street.
It sure is. We will have to wait and see how the banks react.
Thanks for listening to our update today.
See you next time.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we are talking about some very important news coming out of Iran.
Right. There are huge protests happening across many major cities right now. It is the biggest unrest they've seen in decades.
It's very serious, Alex. Reports say at least 42 people have died already. To stop the news from spreading, the Iranian government even started a nationwide internet blackout.
Wow, no internet? That makes it so hard for people to talk to the world. And now the military is being sent into the streets.
Exactly. But the world is not staying silent.
You're right. President Trump issued a very strong warning to Iran's leaders. He declared that the world is watching.
Yes, President Trump made it clear that the United States stands firmly with the Iranian people in their quest for freedom. He wants them to know they are not alone.
Right. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio echoed that feeling. He called the protesters brave for standing up to a regime that suppresses their rights.
It looks like the U.S. is returning to a maximum pressure campaign to isolate the Iranian government even more.
But the Iranian army is fighting back. They vowed to stop what they called enemy plots from Washington.
It's a very volatile situation. We see viral videos of students and even elderly citizens in the streets of Tehran. They are defying the security forces.
They really are brave. However, international observers are worried the conflict could get much worse.
That's why President Trump is signaling that he will not tolerate lethal force against peaceful people.
Exactly. The White House even mentioned new sanctions. They said there will be severe consequences if the violence does not stop.
We will definitely keep a close watch on this. Thanks for listening.
See you next time. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, we have some very big news about the housing market.
Right, Alex. If you are thinking about buying a home, you need to hear this. President Trump just announced a major new policy this week.
Exactly. President Trump wants to ban large institutional investors, that means very big companies, from buying single-family houses.
Wow, that is a huge shift. Why is the president doing this now?
Well, he says these big corporations and hedge funds are driving up real estate prices. He believes they are pricing out individual families.
I see. So when a big company buys a house, a regular family loses their chance to buy it?
Exactly. President Trump says these companies create an unfair playing field. This is part of his affordability tour to help with the rising costs of housing and healthcare.
You know, he mentioned this is a win for the forgotten man. He wants to make sure first-time buyers can actually afford to live in the suburbs.
Right. And Secretary Scott Turner is already working on the new rules to make this happen.
But wait, Alex, is everyone happy about this change?
Not quite. Some experts are worried. They think that if we stop these big investors, there might be less money to build new houses.
Ah, so there could be unintended consequences, like fewer new homes being built in the future.
Exactly. That is the risk. But President Trump is staying firm. He says he will prioritize home ownership for families over the interests of big financial institutions.
It is definitely a bold move. It shows he is focusing on domestic stability as the midterm elections get closer.
Definitely. It's all about making the American dream more affordable for everyone.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time. Welcome to the show. Today we are talking about some very serious news from Russia and Ukraine.
That's right, Alex. Everyone is talking about a new weapon called the Orushnik missile.
Exactly. Russia used this hypersonic missile in a new strike. Now, for our listeners, hypersonic means it travels many times faster than the speed of sound.
Wow, that is incredibly fast. Does that make it hard to stop?
Yes, it does. It is very difficult for current defense systems to catch it. Experts say this is a big show of force to scare other countries.
You know, this has everyone worried. What is President Trump doing about this situation?
Well, President Trump has been briefed by his team. He is keeping a very close watch on everything.
Right. President Trump often mentions peace through strength. Does this mean the U.S. will change its plans?
In a way, yes. President Trump is using this moment to ask for more money for the U.S. defense budget. He wants to make sure American technology stays superior to everyone else.
That makes sense. I also read that a doomsday plane landed near Washington.
Oh, yes, the E-4B plane. It sounds like a movie, right? But it is just a standard protocol. When tensions are high, the Air Force moves this plane to stay ready.
I see. So it is about being prepared.
Exactly. Meanwhile, European leaders are calling for peace negotiations, but the Kremlin is remaining very defiant.
It is a very complex balancing act for President Trump. He wants to end endless wars, but also stay strong.
Right. It is definitely a situation we need to watch closely.
Thanks for explaining that, Alex.
Of course. See you next time.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we're talking about some very big news regarding an island.
Right. You're talking about Greenland. President Trump wants the United States to have control of it.
Exactly. But over the weekend, the leaders in Greenland said a very loud no.
Wow. So they completely rejected the idea?
Yes. Prime Minister Nielsen and other leaders made a statement. They said that Greenland is not for sale and that only the people of Greenland can decide their own future.
You know, it's interesting. Why does President Trump want this island so much? It is mostly covered in ice, right?
Well, it is about more than just ice. Greenland has many rare minerals. These are very important for making things like smartphones and military equipment.
Ah, I see. So it is for technology and the economy.
Exactly. Plus, President Trump says it is important for national security. He wants to stop countries like China and Russia from having too much power in the north.
But Greenland belongs to Denmark right now, doesn't it?
It does, and Denmark is very unhappy about this. Some officials there even said they would protect their land very strictly if they had to.
Wow, that sounds very serious. Is President Trump backing down?
No, not at all. The White House says this is still a high priority goal for his second term. President Trump even said that the map of the world is always changing.
So he might use trade deals to try to start a new conversation.
Right. He wants to bring everyone to the table to negotiate.
This is definitely a story we need to watch.
It really is. Well, that is all for our update today.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, we have a huge story about money, power, and the military.
That's right, Alex. President Trump just announced a massive new plan for the U.S. defense industry.
He is asking Congress for an extra $500 billion every year. That is a lot of money for national security.
It really is. President Trump wants this money to modernize the military and build more ships. But there is a very important rule.
Oh, what is the rule?
Well, any company that receives this money cannot use it for stock buybacks or bonuses for shareholders.
Interesting. So instead of giving money to investors, they must spend it on factories and firepower.
Exactly. President Trump says he wants the money to help American manufacturing and research, not just executive bank accounts. He wants the best value for the taxpayers.
You know, some big traditional companies are a bit worried. Their stock prices are moving up and down because of this news.
I can see why. They usually use that money to keep their stock value high. But some newer tech companies are actually quite happy.
Right. They like this focus on making new things and producing them quickly. President Trump is very clear about his goal.
And what is that goal exactly?
He wants total American military dominance. He says the world is getting more dangerous, so the U.S. must have the best equipment.
Wow, it is a very bold move to change how these big companies work.
It definitely is. We will have to see how Congress reacts to this $500 billion request.
For sure. Thanks for joining us for this news update.
See you next time. Welcome to Tech Talk. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we're talking about a huge story in the world of technology and trade.
Right. It's about NVIDIA. They are currently the most valuable chip maker in the world.
Exactly. The big news is that China may soon allow companies to use NVIDIA's advanced H200 chips for the first time.
Wow, that is a major shift. For the last few years, there has been a chip war between the U.S. and China.
You know, this move is specifically for commercial use. That means the chips will be used for things like consumer AI services and data centers, not for the military.
That is a very important distinction. Now, President Trump is at the center of this. He has a very interesting strategy.
Right. President Trump wants American companies to win globally.
He wants economic victory, but at the same time, he wants to keep high-end technology safe.
Exactly. So, while he wants NVIDIA to sell more products, his administration is keeping a very close eye on the deal.
Yes, the White House said they need ironclad guarantees. That means they must be 100% sure the chips won't be used for state surveillance or military power.
It's a difficult balance, isn't it? Supporting American business while also protecting national security.
It really is. But the news already boosted NVIDIA's stock. It gives the tech sector a lot of optimism.
I agree. This is a real test for how President Trump will negotiate with other superpowers.
Definitely. It's a story we will keep watching.
Well, that's our update for today. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
Welcome to the show. Today we are talking about treasure at the bottom of the ocean.
Oh, like gold coins?
Not quite. We are talking about rare earth minerals. Japan is starting a very big project to mine them from the deep sea.
Wow, that sounds like a movie. Why are they doing that?
Well, you know how important electric cars and smartphones are today?
Of course. We use them every day.
Exactly. To build them, Japan needs special materials like dysprosium. Usually, they buy these from China. But recently, China stopped sending some of these minerals to Japan.
Oh, I see. So Japan is looking for its own supply under the water?
Right. They want to be independent. It is a matter of national survival for their technology companies.
But Alex, the ocean is very deep. Is it hard to get the minerals?
Yes, it is very technically difficult. Also, some people are worried about the environment, but Japan says they must do it to avoid China's monopoly.
You know, I heard that President Trump is very interested in this too.
You're right, Jamie. President Trump has praised Japan's plan. He thinks it is a great model for how allies should work together.
So it's about making sure the U.S. and Japan don't rely on China?
Exactly. President Trump calls this friendshoring. He wants to build a group of friendly nations that share resources.
That makes sense. It is like a race for the materials that power our future.
It really is. Everyone will be watching Japan's deep-sea tests very closely.
Such an interesting topic. Thanks for explaining it, Alex.
You're welcome. See you next time. Welcome to today's news. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we are talking about a big legal battle involving President Trump and welfare money.
That's right, Jamie. A federal judge in Manhattan just made a very important decision. He blocked President Trump's plan to freeze $10 billion in welfare funding.
$10 billion? Wow, that is a massive amount of money. Why did President Trump want to freeze it, Alex?
Well, President Trump says there is too much welfare fraud. He believes people are stealing money that should go to families in need. He was especially worried about reports of fraud in daycare centers in Minnesota.
I see. So he ordered the government to stop the money for 5 states: New York, California, Colorado, Illinois, and Minnesota.
Exactly. But those states fought back in court. They argued that stopping the money is unconstitutional and would hurt millions of low-income families and children.
So what did the judge decide?
Judge Arun Subramanian issued a temporary restraining order. This means President Trump's administration must keep the funding exactly as it is for now.
Oh, so the judge wants to keep the status quo? That means things stay the same while the court hears the case?
You got it. But the White House is not backing down. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said that President Trump is committed to making sure taxpayer money is not wasted or stolen.
It sounds like a very difficult situation. It is a big fight between the president and these blue states.
It really is, Jamie. This case will decide how federal programs are managed in the future.
Thanks for explaining that. It helps to understand these big words like fraud and freeze.
No problem. Thanks for joining us for this news update. See you next time.